Hello there, my name's Michelle Christie. I'm the Program Manager for Vocational Education and Training. Today we are here because you are enrolled in an education course, whether that be a Certificate 3 in Early Childhood, a Diploma of Early Childhood, or perhaps a Certificate 3 in Education Support. We are going to be focusing on referencing and how to reference properly so that when you're doing your assessments here at Open Colleges, you know how to reference correctly. So let's look at how we can reference correctly. Some of the common referencing issues that are occurring within the education courses is that students are adding quotes, but they're not always answering the questions in their own words. And when you are using quotes, at times you're not attributing the other sources that you're using. We're finding that there are a bit of cut and paste from internet sources, such as ECEC, the Aussie Childhood Network, Kids Matter, and a range of other internet sources. At times, students are just adding a hyperlink under the copied text. Some students are adding a reference list, but they're not including in-text citations. And at times we have overquotation. What that means is we have way too many quotes and not enough of the student's work. And at times it can be 100% quotation and nothing else in your own words. Adding quotes in some areas of text, but then at times you're omitting other sections of text. So that what that means is at times you might have one paragraph that does have quotes, and then another section you've included text from another source, but you're not adding the quote or citing that source. Some students are quoting or using quotes that don't relate to the question just to fill up the space. I think some students are worried about the word limit, and at times they just use a quote to just fill the space instead of perhaps looking at the relevancy of the question. And at times, the citations and the references don't match. So, for example, a student might say, this quote comes from ECEC, and when we look through a plagiarism checker, we can see actually that might come from Wikipedia. So when you're completing an assessment, there are a few steps that you should follow. One is you need to review the assessment. Step 2 is to reflect on the learning and or conduct some further research. Step 3 is to draft your assessment. Step 4 is about adding referencing to your submission. Step 5 is about formalising the academic writing. And then finally, step 6 is actually about proofreading your work. So we'll go through each step and what that means. When it comes to your assessments, when we look at the student handbook, assessment is defined as this involves gathering, consolidating and discussing evidence about your learning. Because you are undertaking a nationally recognised qualification, Open Colleges must formally assess your knowledge and skills in order to determine your competency. This means that assessment is an integral part of your learning, and you are required to complete various assessments to progress within the course and ultimately receive your qualification. So, step 1. What we are suggesting about reviewing these assessment instructions is download your assessment. Okay, review, have a look at these instructions very, very carefully, and perhaps consider what the questions are truly asking you. Step 2, reflect on your learning and undertake further research if needed. So when you're starting an assessment, you might be thinking, how can I apply my knowledge on my assessments? And when you're preparing to complete an assessment, you might want to consider what you have just learnt. We would suggest that you reflect on your reading, but perhaps also you might want to conduct some further research. And this can be done by reviewing different resources, such as textbooks, research materials, journal articles, reputable websites, Now, when I say reputable websites, we're talking about not blogs or internet forums. These are people's opinions. Reputable sources come from published sources, such as a journal article or a textbook. And when you are doing some research, it pays to take note of where these sources come from so you can attribute them later. And I'll go through that process with you shortly. And I suppose some students question, why do they need to research? Why can't I just get everything from the learner guide? You can, but I find as a learner, sometimes I'm reading something in the textbook and I think, oh, that's an interesting concept. Perhaps I would like to know a little bit more information than what is presented to me. And the internet has an amazing amount of information available. And at times I find by doing some further research, it actually strengthens my understanding of a specific concept or a topic that is being presented. So at times it actually further enhances my knowledge. Okay, so you've reviewed the assessment and you've done some research. Now we need to start drafting that assessment. So type out some draft answers. We don't want you just to rely on quotes. These should be there to back up your answer. You need to answer the question in your own words. Consider whether it is actually needed to add a reference. Now, some questions are asking you to discuss this in your own words or reflect on your own experience. And these questions, it's actually not appropriate to use a reference. The question is asking you, what do you know or what could you do or have done? Quotes are there to support your answer, and you're really using somebody else's information theories where needed. And you can either do this by using a direct quote or paraphrasing. And if you are going to attribute another source, we do suggest to use correct referencing guide. And in this case, we're talking Harvard referencing when you're referring to others' work. And you can either directly quote or paraphrase, either is fine, to reference all your answers. And when it comes to referencing, you need to include both in-text citation and also a reference list. So the big thing to take away from the draft assessment is you need to include answers for every question being asked and complete tasks in your own words. From there, you can back up your answers with quotes where needed, so long as they match and support what you are saying. What do we mean by not adhering to the question? So here we have a question. In your own words, define childhood. And this particular student has said, according to the Oxford Dictionary, the state of or period of being a child. Now we can see here, this is not an appropriate answer because they have only added a reference and they've not included anything in their own words as the question is asking them to do. How to add a reference to your submission. So in step 4, after answering the question or task in your own words, there may be a need to support your answer with another person's ideas or theories. When using another person's work, we need to reference them carefully and document the sources we have used in your research or reading. Proper referencing demonstrates that you have undertaken appropriate and transparent research. And to make it easier when you're drafting your assessment submission, it would be a good idea to write your references next to your draft notes. You also need to be very selective on the quotes you're using within your submission. Try and use minimal quotes from other sources to back up your answer. Ideally, a quote should only be a sentence or two. We shouldn't be seeing cut and paste for more than a paragraph of text. So when you're adding references to your submission, you need to refer to sources or authors only from reputable sources. So, such as your textbook, or perhaps you've borrowed another textbook from the library, or you found a textbook online. Journal articles. Google Scholar is a great resource to use to find quotes that will back up your answer. Australian government websites are another great source to use. And also reports from known reputable organisations. For example, the Australian Commonwealth, ECEC, which is the regulator for early childhood Australia, Department of Education for teachers. And also materials that have been published within the last 10 years. And if you are referring to other sources, we suggest not to use forums. So the Aussie Childhood Network is a big one where students or other people have put their thoughts and feelings into a forum. That's not necessarily a reputable source, it's someone's opinion. Blogs, Facebook posts, Wikipedia, again, are other people's opinions. American or other international websites, at times different countries use different practices. The Australian system is quite regulated when it comes to early childhood and also secondary and primary curriculum. So do be aware that if you are using international sources, they may be referring to different practices which may or may not align to the Australian system. Self-authored websites, other students, and also materials that are over 15 years old. Now, when you're adding referencing to your submission, the Right Check Beta website suggests that we need to check if the information is from a reputable source. So you need to ask yourself the following questions. 1, does the site author list their qualifications? Is the author an authority? Or government or university websites are also reputable. Does the author cite sources, and are their sources referenced? Does the site or article sound credible? Is the tone authoritative? Is the database article from a peer-reviewed source? And this lends to credibility. So there are theorists out there who have published sources that are peer-reviewed. And because these are peer-reviewed, it does actually lend credibility and is acceptable in both the vocational and tertiary systems. Is the article timely? Was it written in the last 3 to 5 years? Early information may have been disproven or modified. So if you're referring to perhaps a text that was written in the 40s or the 50s, perhaps there might be some more modern information that has superseded that other information. Is the learning fair and objective? Does the information validate or refute your answer or understanding of the issue? Can the article be used as evidence in your document? Does the author back up his or her arguments? Is the website active? So check the URL links. And was the information retrieved from Wikipedia? This is not a reputable source. Look up and study any reference materials at the bottom of a wiki page for possible use. So that information was extracted from rightcheck.com. So when we're referencing in the draft submission, it is suggested to add details of the reference materials underneath the author's work, so you can formalise this later. So for example, my work here, I've written, there are many common childhood illnesses that can affect children in your centre, such as chickenpox, measles, whooping cough, etc. Now, I found a great quote here that said many of the diseases listed on this page spread easily between family members, at daycare centres and at schools. Thankfully, some of them are preventable via immunisation. And I've included the hyperlink there for the website I found this quote. So when I'm drafting a submission, I always put the quote and I always add it in a different colour. So it highlights to me that this is not my own work. and you will notice I've used the word here, quote, pardon me, and I've used the URL as well. So when I'm going back to proofread and add my references properly later, I can go back to this hyperlink, check and see what page it came from, or what was the author's information, so that I can reference it properly. And sometimes I might add quotes and I sometimes add more than I need. So as I'm writing and formulating my ideas, at times I may have found a quote that was previously thought as relevant, and I might actually delete some of the quotes that I'm using. The point is to, formalize things in your own words as much as possible, and just use quotes sparingly to back up your answers where needed. So when it does come to referencing, Harvard referencing system is the required style in open colleges, and it's sometimes called as the author and date referencing. This is a style that's used at many universities. So if any of you have ideas of potentially moving into tertiary education at a later stage, it's good to get into the habit of referencing now. Harvard referencing uses both in-text references rather than footnotes. And we do have a PDF copy available to you within Open Space in the Student Lounge. So you can click on the link or copy the link I have here in this PowerPoint, or you can go to the Student Lounge and find the Harvard referencing link there. You need to understand that there are many different referencing systems available, and every institution will have their own style or preference. So let's look at an example of not referencing. We have the same question again. Question 1, in your own words, define childhood. And we have the answer as the state or period of being a child. Now, this above information hasn't been referenced, and we did see it in our previous example. So we know this comes from the Oxford Dictionary. In this case, this would be deemed as plagiarism, because we can easily see it does come from another source, and it's not your own words. So we have to be careful to actually add the reference in if we're going to use it. Okay, so we have drafted out our assessment, and now we are thinking I'm happy with the form that it's in right now, so we need to formalize academic writing. Now, within the course you are undertaking, whether that be early childhood or education support, majority of our assessments do require a compulsory reference list at the end of the assessment. Some do, some don't, so just be aware of reading the instructions carefully. And this information is included in the assessment instructions. So to make sure you are referencing correctly, you can refer to the academic referencing guide on page 40 of your student handbook. Again, you can refer to the student handbook in the Student Lounge in Open Space, or you can use the link here in our PowerPoint. So Harvard referencing uses a term called citing, and citing is the formal recognition in your text of the source in which you've attained that information from. According to the student handbook, in-text referencing is defined as citing another writer's ideas or referring to an idea without quoting it word for word. In simple words, after reading information from other sources, write your answers in your own words, provide information in regards to where this information came from. This is called citation. Where to use in-text referencing? Well, you need to use citation or in-text referencing when you are paraphrasing another author's work, referring to another's work or idea, using others' images or videos, or directly after a quotation. How to do in-text referencing? So to do that, you'll need to write the author's name, a date, the page number. So the author's surname, we don't include the author's first name or their initials there. The year of the publication, straight after the author's name, no comma is required. The page number, if you're referring to a specific page, or it may be pages, depending on if it goes from one page to another, depends on how big the quote is. And this information is placed in brackets that are contained within the sentence. So when it comes to using direct quotes, when we look at the student handbook, it's defined as the exact reproduction of another's work, text, phrase, or argument. You can use a direct quote to back up your argument, and as said before, it shouldn't be your whole answer. Direct quotes will not be considered as part of your answer, and therefore it is important to ensure that you have provided an answer in your own words. Please make sure to clarify the quotation by placing a quotation mark on either side of the quote, and provide the citation either straight before or directly after the quotation. So what does that look like? Okay, so if we're going to add a direct quotation into our assessments, here is an example of a strong author citation. So D. Oliveri and Silva in 2013, if we look on page 56 of this particular text, state that you may feel guilty because of your mistakes, but learning from your mistakes makes Victor succeed because he learns from his mistakes. Or we can use, and the reason this is a strong author citation is because the author details are directly up front before the quotation. The other way is a weak author citation. So we've included a little bit here on our own words. So preparation is key to a good written assessment. And then we have the quote, you will be more motivated to write a good paper if you have thought about exactly why you want to have your research published. Woolwalk, 2016, page 5. Now, depending on whether you're using a single page or multiple pages, will slightly change the way that you do your citation. So for example, if we're using a single page, here we've got Suggett and Rees, so these are the two authors. In 2012 is their publication, and on page 154. So we always do the author, a bracket, the year it was published, a comma, the P, the dot, and then the page number and the bracket. Then we add a linkage word and then the quotation. If we're citing a range of pages, for example, you might have a quote that ends towards the very end of the one page and at the very start of the next. For example, we might have page 3 to 4. In this case, we've got Rod, 2013 on page, and we've got PP, because we've got multiple pages, 3 to 4 in the bracket, highlights that crucially leadership and enactment in early childhood remain independent of government frameworks and guidelines. So it's good to get in the practice of direct quotation. When I'm writing assessments myself, whether that be at vocational in an RTO or at university, I do tend to favour direct quotes just because then I don't have to put things in my own words. And the quote was put in context for a reason, and I like to use the author's ideas to back up what I'm suggesting in my assessments. So you can feel free to use direct quotes. You can also paraphrase if you'd like, but do know that you need to use this in-text citation, and this is backed up by your reference list or bibliography at the end. The good thing about it too is that if you have these in-text citations, the assessor can see exactly where that text actually came from. Okay, so when it comes to direct quotation, at times you might have a single author, you might have two authors, and there might be multiple authors who have written the text you are quoting from. So if you have a single author, you can put, for example, here we have Taggart, and then bracket 2014, comma, P dot 178, so it's Taggart 2014, and we look at page 178, suggest, by highlighting the ethical nature of the practice, reframing childcare as compassionate work with children places this endeavours alongside other overtly compassionate professions such as nursing, social work, counselling and ministry. Okay, so if we're looking at two authors, we put the first author and then an and then the second author. So Krogh and Slentz in 2010 on page 41, so there should be a dot right there, I do apologise, highlights that people who work with young children have an ethical obligation to choose a career in early childhood education with serious intent and for the right reasons. And then if we have multiple authors, so if we have 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10, so we've got multiple people authoring the text, we use the first author's name only and then put et al, and that means Arthur and everybody else. And then we put the bracket, 2014, page 12, states, we encourage early childhood educators to take notions of accountability seriously. And you will notice here I put a dot, 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 because I've actually cut the rest of that quote. All I'm trying to do is back up my answer in my assessment. So when it comes to direct quotes, you will have noticed that we put the name, the year that the content was published, the page, and then we can use wording as to what this person has done with that quote. So according to Brown, Simpson suggests, Thompson outlines, Cameron states. We use these different words to assist with our referencing. So if I just go back a page, you'll see Taggart suggests, Krogh and Slentz highlights that, Arthur et al. States. That's what I mean by using these phrases. So according to Brown, Smith states, Navali concludes, and we put in, the wording around that. Now, according to yourdictionary.com, paraphrasing involves taking a set of facts, opinions, and rewording them. When paraphrasing, it is important to keep the original meaning and to present it in a new form. Basically, you are simply writing something in your own words that expresses the right idea. So when it comes to paraphrase, put the text in your own words, avoid copying the text, rearrange similar text, and ask yourself if you've included the important points. Using indirect quotations or paraphrases doesn't mean that you can just cut and paste from the original source and just change a few words to synonyms. What that means is you're using similar words. Because this is called patchwork paraphrasing, and it can be picked up in a plagiarism checker. So what you need to do is look at it as part of text, maybe a sentence, for example, and rewrite it in your own words, but make sure that the original intent is not taken away from. So here's an example of incorrect referencing. So question 1, in your own words, define childhood. Childhood is the time for children to be in school and to play, to grow strong and confident with the love and encouragement of their family and extended community of caring adults. And this particular person has just put the hyperlink of where that information come from. Now, this information hasn't been referenced correctly as there are no quotation marks and the source hasn't been attributed correctly. There's only the hyperlink. We have no idea who the author was when this was published, and perhaps if this is a text document with multiple pages, what page it comes from. And this is a common mistake that students undertaking courses at open colleges do. So we can use that hyperlink in our draft, but when we're actually formalizing our submission and putting in academic writing, then we need to start putting in where this actually came from. So who's the author, what year, and putting that into our quotation. I suppose the other thing to take from this particular example is there is nothing here in your own words. So we need to include our own answers into the questions as well. Here's an example of correct referencing. Okay, so as an educator, I believe childhood is a pivotal age for development and learning. Now, UNICEF.org 2017 states, childhood is the time for children to be at school and at play to grow strong and confident with the love and encouragement of their family and extended community of caring adults. So we've actually moved that hyperlink quote into proper referencing. And when we look at the reference list at the bottom of the assessment, it should show unicef.org 2017. It's an online source and it's available at this particular hyperlink, and it was accessed on the 1st of March 2017. So when you are citing an indirect quotation or a paraphrase of a textbook or a journal article, this is some ways to do it. So the direct quote from Wellcome and Jones, 1991, page 106, states, "It is easy to overlook mistakes initially that can be corrected. The overall writing is always improved with further attention." Now, if you are to look at an indirect quote or phrase, you could say, "Taking your time when writing is highly recommended as it is easy to disregard mistakes at first." By Wellcome and Jones, 1991, page 106. So you note that there are no similar words here. There's no cut and paste with a few changes. We have reworked the sentence into our own words, but we haven't taken away from the original intent. When it comes to your learner guide or your student workbook or the textbook, you can actually reference this information into your assessments. Some students don't know how to do that properly. At times they might just say open colleges and this is the year, so 2017, if they were doing their assessments this year. If you are using a PDF learner guide, here's an example. For example, use the title of the book, which might be CHC DIV 002, Promote Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders Cultural Safety. Have a look on the front, the second page, where we have the copyright information. It might say something like, this text was published in 2016, and what page within the book you're actually using. If you're using open space learning content, so some of our content is only available online, you can use learning.opencolleges.edu.au 2017. If you're trying to reference your textbooks, if you're in Cert 3 in early childhood, I've got the in-text citation and also your bibliography right here for you. If you're in the Diploma of Early Childhood, here is your in-text citation and also your reference list. If you're in education support, depending on which version you're in, here is your, if you're in E1048A, Cert 3, you might have the Kearns 2012 book. If you're in the B version, you might have the Kearns 2016 book. So here are your references. So you can directly cut and paste this information into your assessment or refer to this slide with your assessment. If you're referencing an internet source, internet citations should include the author or the publisher's name, the publication date, the article title or the website name, the publisher's name, the date it was retrieved, and the full URL. So for example, if we're looking at the Open Colleges open space, we might say learning.opencolleges.edu.au 2017. Develop workplace policy and procedures for sustainability. Subtopic 2.3 online. Available here is a hyperlink, and it was accessed on the 1st of March 2017. You can also reference a personal conversation you have with a person. So interviews or personal conversations should be cited with the year of the interview, the interviewer, the format. So was it via radio, was it in person or over the in TV? The location and the date. For example, you might use Sevilla C. So someone's name is Sevilla, 2017, early childhood practice. You can also reference a video, a DVD, or a film. And these citations should include the film title, the publication date, the format, the place of origin, and the filmmaker. So, for example, we have The Science of Early Childhood Development, 2017. It's a DVD via YouTube, and it was done by Harvard Education. Now, some of the assessments that come through for the education courses, some students use a reference list, some people use a bibliography. So we're going to look at what the difference is and which one you should be using. So a reference list is a detailed list which includes all the cited sources of information you have included to support your answers within your assessment submission. The reference list comes at the end of your document and allows others to find the information you have used. So you need to make sure that all of your in-text citations are included into the reference list, and all the reference list includes the in-text citations. A bibliography does follow the same rules to a degree, but it also includes any informational materials you haven't quoted or cited that you use when you're perhaps researching or preparing for your assessment. At Open Colleges, we think a reference list is more sufficient. It's a bit more streamlined. You're only using the citations you've used in your assessment. So please just use a reference list for your assessment tasks. So how do you write a reference list? So once you've finished your assessment, start a brand new page. So press enter, enter, enter until you get it to a new page. Use the heading references and then list the resources in alphabetical order according to the author's surnames. Now, when the author has multiple works, so for example, if you're using the same author but different texts, you can organize them in chronological order from the earliest text, so for example, 2010, to their latest text, perhaps 2016. Here I've got an example for you on the reference list. So you will note here we have references, and I always usually underline that word. And then we have the references in alphabetical order. So B goes first, then C, then M, then N. So you'll note Bruce T, 2016. To me, this looks like a written text. Kaus and Chen, 2014. A tablet. It's got here a journal. So to me, that tells me that is a journal article that has been found. Martins, 2010. Early Childhood Themes. Again, that looks like a textbook. And the National Equality Framework 2017, practiced online, was accessed on the 1st of March. This was an online site. So we can use a multiple of different types of sources, whether it be the textbooks, journal articles, online texts in our reference list. So all of these references I would expect to see in the in-text citations. Now, Harvard referencing you can use on Microsoft Word. There are software available to assist with referencing and making life easier for you. So Microsoft Office software can be used to reference your writing. And to learn more, I would suggest to check out this YouTube channel here. But you can go into your Microsoft Word and click on Insert a Citation, and it will help you do that. Personally, I prefer to use a website called Cite This For Me. It is an online software that helps generate your in-text and also reference list. So you can go to citethisforme.com, and you'll note here I've got the Bruce, the Kaus and Chen, the sustainability document here. So these were information that we included into our reference list just a couple of slides ago. The great thing about this software is I can reference my textbooks, journal articles, websites. I can change the the citation style, whether that be Harvard or APA or others that are required. And it's such an easy website to use, which I'm going to go through with you just in a sec. We might do that now. Oops, just going to stop sharing my screen for a sec. And I'm going to bring up an assessment I prepared earlier. Okay, so how I use Cite This For Me in referencing for my assessments. Let's say I was trying to put together an assignment for an assessment, and I've written my own work. Maybe it's talking about changes to childcare and society. And in my own words, I've said childcare is an important function to society. Due to the escalating living costs in Australia, there are many households who need both parents to work in order to be financially stable. There are benefits to accessing childcare for children, such as early education on skills, socialisation of the child, as well as giving children a routine. Now, I found two great quotes that support my answer. One is from Benson and Heath, which says, "Women who work provide an extra income to alleviate the family's financial concerns." I've put what the source comes from. So I've got Benson and Heath 2010. I found it on page 280, and I've got the source or the text information. I also like to put, when I'm doing my draft, the actual hyperlink that I found it from. And I also have the same here for Harrison, Goldfield, Metcalf, and more. So high quality programs provide greater benefits for children's social, emotional learning outcomes, particularly for children from disadvantaged backgrounds. So how am I going to use these quotes in my work? So I have here, childcare is an important function for society. Due to the escalating living costs in Australia, there are many households who need both parents to work in order to be financially stable. So I'm actually going to split this work into two sections. Now, Google Books is a fantastic resource that you can use to assist to back up your answers. I use it quite regularly when I'm putting my assessments together. So if I'm to go to this particular, the way you do Google Books, I might just go back one sec. I'm just going to open Google Books. Okay, I've just opened up a Google page, and let's say I'm trying to find children. Whoops. Oh, what's happened there? Hang on one sec. That's better. Okay, so if I go into Google and I put children's education, it will take us to all. Now, if you look on your tab bar here, you can click on images, you can look at news, videos, We can look at shopping, but I'm not going to do that. If you click on the More button, you can click on Books. Now, this is what I use to kind of fast track finding a quote. Let's say I'm looking for something. Here. I can bring up a text and I can go next, 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 flick through a book, and I might find a quote here. So, or if that's not right, I can go back into Google Books and find, let's have a look at this one. Now, sometimes you're going to click on a book and it's not going to give you a preview. So it says no ebook available. So be aware that not everything you click on, you are going to be able to see. Okay, again, I can click through Google Books to find the quote that I'm after. Oops. Okay, so let's say I've just opened up the Benson and Heath book, the ebook on Google Books, and I found here my quote. So women who work provide an extra income to alleviate the family's financial concerns. You can see here it's on page 280. So that matches what I have in my notes. What I can do now is go about this book. And I'm going to scroll down the bottom so you can see it's an actual text. It comes from it is a textbook. And down here, I'm going to cheat a little bit. We have the ISBN. It's the easiest way to cite this for me. Okay, so I'm going to go into Cite This For Me, and it helps to create a bibliography really quickly. Yes, we know that. Start a new bibliography, yes. It's going to take a sec. All right, so in my case, I have a book. So I'm going to click on the book. And it's going to ask for either the title, the author, or the ISBN. Now I have the ISBN, so I'm going to go put that in and put search. Now, it's given us a book from Benson and Heath 2010. Now, I'd usually just double check and go Social and Emotional Development in Infancy and Early Childhood, Benson Heath 2010. So that is the book I'm after. So I go, yes, that's what we found. Next step, please. That's all fine. Add the reference. Now I have the in-text citation. Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste that. Yes, that's fine. Thank you, Cite This For Me. And I'm going to put that here. Now I've used page 280. So you note I've used Benson and Heath, bracket 2010, comma, P dot 280 close bracket, suggests, oops, comma, and then I'm going to put my quotation mark, add the rest of the quote here, and end the quotation mark. So if somebody is looking at my assessment now, they will see that this is my work and this is a quote from Benson and Heath to back up my answer about being financially stable and alleviating financial concerns. So then I can do the same with the next quote. So, what I need to do, I'll do references after. So there is benefits to accessing childcare. So I'm going to grab, this is my other quote. So you'll see on page 4 for, Harrison, Goldfield, Metcalf, Moore. Higher education programs provide greater benefits for children's social, emotional learning outcomes, particularly for children from disadvantaged backgrounds. I think that's what I've got here. So I'm going to go about this book. down the bottom again, get the ISBN. The other way you can do it is maybe put in the title. So I'm going to go book again. Add in the title. Let's see if it works out on who this is. Okay, we've got Harrison Goldfield Metcalf Moore, 2012. Let's just go back and check. Harrison Goldfield Metcalf Moore, 2012. That is my book. Let's click on that button. Final step. And again. Yep, add the reference. Excellent. So I've got Harrison et al. 2012. Yes, thank you. Cite this for me. So I'm going to put here, according to, and I'm going to get rid of that and that. Page 4. So in this case, I've put according to, and I've put the authors, and then I'm going to put the direct quote. In this case, I don't need to do the linking word after the quote. I'm putting it before. And I'm going to grab my quote and finish that off. Whoops, 2 quotes there. So if I put this all as one paragraph, the assessor can see this is my own work. I've used Benson and Hayth here. This again is my work. And then this is another quote. Now, when I'm finalising the assessment, what I'd be doing is getting rid of this part here. And I, that too. Then I need to add a reference list. So I'm going to keep clicking enter until I get to another page, or you can click on the page break if you have that functionality, you know how to use that properly. Excellent. So I'm going to go references. I'm going to underline that. Now I need to get my reference list. So if I go back to cite this for me, and it says your bibliography, I'm going to go Benson and Hayth. And it's already put that into the Harvard referencing style for me. Yep. And I'm going to grab Harrison et al. And that is my assignment. It is referenced correctly. I have in-text citations up here. I have used my own words and backed up with quotes where needed. And I also have my reference list that includes the quotes within my in-text citations. So that is how you can use the internet to assist you in developing or designing, creating your own, putting together your own assessments, using the correct referencing styles that you are required to use. It's quite easy, and practice makes perfect when it comes to using this, but feel free to use Cite This For Me. It is a free online tool, and it's an absolute godsend when you're putting together big assessments. So that is Cite This For Me. Very easy to use. You do have the ability to add websites or journal articles, or if you click on the More button, you can see other reports or government websites and things. So feel free to have a play with Cite This For Me. Lastly, what I'd suggest before you submit your assessment is make sure you have proofread everything. Make sure you don't have any spelling mistakes, that you have don't have any grammatical errors. You need to make sure that you've answered everything in your own words. You've used in-text citation for any other sources you've used, and also a reference list. Double check your assessment for the referencing before you submit, and good luck. Oops, pardon me. What's happened there? If you do need further assistance when it comes to referencing, it does take time to learn how to do it properly. feel free to make an appointment with Learning Support. They are a fantastic reference, great team that you can use. You can book an appointment and they can happily go through referencing with you. Or you can send a message to your trainer via the Open Space Message Centre. Thank you so much for attending our tutorial today. I hope that has cleared up a bit about referencing and that you feel more confident to reference in the future.